Hello, this is Ms. Gardner, and this is the video for just kind of showing you the early steps of making a chop, seal, stamp, whatever you'd like to call it. And I did forget to show you something earlier. I was showing you different samples in the other video about types of chops and seals. This was a very traditional one that's very Western. It's like, I know it's hard to see. It's a rubber stamp. Here, I'll print it so you can see it. Let's see if I can get this ink pad open over here. So let's see. I'll just print it. There we go. So you see that the part that sticks out in relief. There it is. There's that peace sign. It was carved around, carved in between in those negative spaces to leave a raised rubber surface there that was originally flat, and then inked and printed. So a rubber stamp was another type of seal or chop that can be made. And another thing I forgot to show you that is really important is you can just use old-fashioned linoleum, or like this is actually just an eraser, kind of a rubbery surface. And it's really a type of soapy eraser, which is like a gum eraser that has a little bit of abrasives in it. And it can be easily carved. And the cool thing about these erasers is that you can actually transfer your stamp, which I'll show you real quick, and then use tools such as these, like a gouge or a baron, to actually cut through it. The gouge is for the linoleum. So let me see. Let me just show you the early steps. So the design that I'm doing for my sample is a combination of my name, so Hsiao-Ling, and it's an H and an L together. And so if you're answering that 10-point question, HL is my sample that I am doing. That's my design. And so you can see I've been kind of practicing it. Really the first thing I did is, not all of you, but some of you are using like a 1-inch type of wood shape. And so really all I did was trace it. So I'll just trace around it real quick. I'm just using a mechanical pencil. It works fine. You may have noticed when you were reading about the Make a Chop reading that I gave you the other day, it said use an ebony pencil. Some of you may not have understood what that is. If you're in drawing class, you know what I'm talking about. But here's an ebony pencil. It's just like super, super dark graphite, kind of like a 6B that's when you're shading, it's like super soft. And it makes a really nice transfer, just like you would a carbon transfer. But I found that a mechanical pencil worked just as well for what I was doing. But I traced my space, which is kind of large, to be honest, for a stamp. So, but you can work inside of it. Like I was practicing maybe making a round shape outline. It helps to have a little bit of an outline. It does make it stamp easier instead of just having a kind of an organic shape. And I was just trying some different designs, a traditional square format. I ended up deciding to go with a rectangular type of border because my design just fit really well. So here's the one I ended up liking. Then I had to kind of translate this skinny little design into what I think would be a nice stamp. Still a little large, but I like it. So that's what I did. I just traced inside of it, traced around my shape I was going to be carving from, and then within it, my real edge will be right here, a border that sticks out. So I blackened the part that I wanted to actually print. You do have to kind of think that out. Like, is it going to be where the letters don't print, where it's just white and the background prints? Or is it going to be like this one where I'm going to actually have the letters sticking out and the border sticking out, so that when I do ink, that's the part that prints. So that's what I decided to do. So the part I'm going to carve away from will be this white background area right there, and I'm going to leave behind the HL and the border. So you may notice that all this around the edge will be gone. I can kind of shave it away at an angle just for strength, but really that's not going to print at all. Let's see. So anyway, I have that, and here is one of these nice soft gum erasers, okay, or soap erasers really, and I'm going to place it so that it looks visually like it's going to fit inside my original tracing, which I know I traced a piece of wood, but this is really like a 1-inch eraser anyway. And I'm going to, let's see, let me get it on there first. Okay, got it on there. I'm going to just press. And that soft graphite should, let's see, yep, did pretty good there, okay? So pretty cool trick of transferring. So notice this. I did my original in a positive manner, meaning that I read it the way I want it to look when it prints, which for lettering, that makes a difference, or for Chinese characters, that would make a difference. Now for a peace sign, doesn't really matter, because that's basically the same, mirror image either way, symmetrical. It doesn't matter if it's in reverse. But with lettering, remember that the actual stamp or seal or chop needs to be in reverse, so that when we carve away at it, and then we turn it over, ink it, and print it. Well, here, let me just see if it might transfer and print. Barely, you can probably barely see that. Let me see if I can do it harder. Don't know if I can. All right, but it'll go back to the positive when I do the real print. But this is nice because it'll show me where I'm going to carve away at, kind of like a little guideline to follow. And so here, I'll just show you a little bit. Not every class is going to use the little linoleum type rubber surface. Some of you are going to use clay. Some of you are going to use, my printmaking class, they're going to use the actual wood and use the baron and some gouges to work the surface of this, okay, on the end grain. And then, let's see, well, I'll just go ahead and show you this. So on this one, which is simulates the linoleum, I'll be carving away from the background. Now, if I wanted a clean cut where I end, I could actually have made a little stop cut right there. Okay, but you can see that when I peel away, I could even do little shortcuts. But basically, I'm gouging away at the background like that. Okay, now here's one where I had used a larger gouge and then put some graphite on top, so you could see that the part that prints would be the part that's left sticking out. Okay, so whatever you take away from is recessed or deeper down and won't touch the ink. All right, so you'll see I'll carve that over the weekend and show you next week when we come back to school. Some of you are, let's see, you can make stamps out of dowel rod pieces, like on the end. Here's transfer paper. Now, for the one when I'm transferring onto the wood, I might end up using some transfer paper, as long as I remember it's in reverse when I'm going to carve it. But I'm going to show you, if you're going to be using, like my sculpture class is going to use clay. And here are a couple of clay stamps you might remember from the other video. Okay, one's recessed so that when the clay stamp, if I was doing a regular print, the ink would hit the surface, and that's the part that would print. Clay is maybe not the best for that, but that's how it would print. If I was using clay that's been fired, and then I use it on fresh clay, it'll make a really nice three-dimensional kind of impression. So all the deep parts will actually be raised in fresh clay. Well, just like this here. Happen to have it. There you go. So you can see that. And then on this one where the design is poking out in relief, if I press it into soft clay, it will go deeper. Okay. So if you're making that type of stamp, it don't matter. Now, when you're actually making a stamp, we usually just try to, now you can, for sculpture class, we'll sculpt an interesting handle however you want, or it can be super basic like this. I usually just kind of form it. And notice that the bottom is really going to be the seal surface, or the stamp chop surface right there. Just not carved in yet. But the clay's real nice and fresh right now. Now, if I wasn't worried about making this very sculptural, although some of the coolest seals, like remember I had a lion dog on my real Chinese seal, I mean that makes it special and unique and more personalized. But this is like a basic one right here, just so you can hold on to it. See how it kind of tapers down, but it has like a large surface area. And this would be the surface where you would make the stamp. Now, if I let this stiffen a little bit more workable, where I won't I can still make marks, but not accidentally scratch it. I can let it kind of go to leather hard a little bit, and I could actually imprint a design onto it, and that would be fine. But most people just like to kind of go fresh. So if I was kind of simulating, let's see, one like this perhaps, I could just, and you could use tools to create your stamp. Ooh, kind of like this one. This is just a rough, broken tool right here. Man, it makes some cool petals. I might actually keep this one. So this is a neat one that if I was to use it like a paper stamp, then I would just, when it's dry, I would fire it so it's more like this, like a transformed into a rock, and then ink, print. But if I was using it on soft clay, where the clay can press into it, I'd have some really cool three-dimensional flower kind of poking up. So, of course, I would scratch my name on the outside of this, just so I know it's mine. But that's how you make a seal out of clay. And here's one. It's going to be the carved linoleum or rubber type of stamp. And then the wood one, not going yet, but I'm going to probably try this in a wood version for my other class for sample. Okay, so remember, HL.